So has the left lost? That story topic tonight's 2-minute drill. Tonight's panel, conservative columnist S.E. Cupp, Democratic strategist Nancy Skinner, and Toby Smith has rejoined us, and he is fighting to get out there. All right, let's fire up the clock. A new Quinnipiac poll released today says that just 15% of Americans believe the Arizona mass murder was due to political rhetoric. Just 9% say it was due to lax gun control. 40% say it couldn't have been prevented. The American people clearly rejecting the left's attacks on the right for the tragedy. So does this mean that the left has lost its power to push policy over the next couple of years? S.E., what do you think?
Well, I think certainly the liberal media lost a lot of credibility. I mean, this shows how out of touch the liberal political class is in this country, that most Americans did not automatically rush to these storylines that the liberal media pushed. When it comes to Washington, though, they're generally unfazed by being out of touch with the rest of the country. They kind of do what they want, regardless of the polls, regardless of what the electorate is screaming for. So I think they go on business as usual.
I'm thinking of folks like George Soros and the other folks who have been pushing a lot of this legislation that we've seen in the past couple of years. Of course, you see it on the right, too. You have the Heritage Foundation on the right, and you have the Center for American Progress on the left. Has CAP and other of these left-wing organizations lost some of their punch?
I don't understand the connection between this poll. By the way, also, when the question was asked, does overheated political rhetoric lead to unstable people to do these things, it was 52 to 41%. So people do understand that overheated rhetoric will make unstable people
but Nancy,
do things.
come on. What you have seen over the past week is a total rejection of the notice by the American public that any of the rhetoric had anything to do with what happened in Arizona. And I'm just wondering
in this very poll you're citing, they say it does unstable people. I think that the American public, David, has thrown their hands in the air. They are so tired of the nonstop political warfare that goes on.
All right.
And what they care about is their jobs, and they're so
That's
tired
overheated
of this.
rhetoric, Nancy.
Okay, but Toby, the question is, I heard you, Nancy. You're not answering directly.
Stabilizing our economy,
Nancy,
jobs,
hold on.
and cleaning up the environment.
Toby, the question specifically is, can she hear me? I wonder. The question specifically is, Toby, whether or not the left, which has had a lot of influence on pushing legislation, health care, and a lot of other things, whether they have lost their punch as a result, not necessarily as a result, but whether what we saw this past week is a reflection of how they've lost their punch.
Well, I mean, it's poor judgment, obviously, number one, David. I mean, to try to make an analogy that that paranoid schizophrenic person would act violently due to something he or she saw on television. If that was a fact, then we would have probably about 65,000 murders a day, because we have about 1.1 million paranoid schizophrenic people, according to the American Psychiatric Association.
I was just reminded by their director, we hit 0 a long time ago. We got to go on to the next subject. A new government website set to launch in days, already inciting major controversy. It's called saferproducts.gov. It's going to allow consumers to complain about any product from any company. The government says it will protect Americans, but businesses are kind of worried that it's going to allow government to get further in their business. Is that fear justified, Toby?
Well, it is. If you look at Yelp.com, because that's the leading site for essentially talking about other businesses, there's an entire industry of people who are hired to complain about the pizza store across the street from the other pizza guy. They spend half of their time rejecting the crap that's put on negatively about a business that's just a competitor. So, yeah, just to hold this out and then to start to legislate based on stuff that's posted, it's insane.
Nancy, why do we need the government to do this when we have so many different websites on which it's already being done?
I love my dear friend Toby saying, shut down information. Mr. Freedom Fighter, shut down information.
No, this is government. This is a government website.
Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, a capitalism requires...
Adam Smith was talking about the free market, not about the government doing it, Nancy.
Yeah. Because they're getting all these reports.
David.
The government is the clearinghouse for these reports. So they come in, and if you keep them secret, then it's years later until how many people die.
But, Essie, do we want the government as a clearinghouse for private information?
We have plenty of private sector solutions to this. Everyone is free to complain about anything they want on the internet. When the government stamps this and gives its imprimatur to this business versus business kind of scuffle, then I think it leads consumers in one way or in one direction or another.
Answer me honestly, don't you love saying the word imprimatur?
Sure, absolutely.
Every chance she gets.
I love Latin, period.
All right, remember this. Take a listen.
I don't know how they are going to be able to argue that extending permanently these high-end tax cuts is going to be good for our economy.
No, so the president said extending the Bush tax cuts would not help the economy at all. But the wealthy are spending their money, new report says, that upper-income shoppers splurging 45% more during Christmas week, much more than the average consumer. And our friend Patrick Byrne from Overstock.com told us the wealthy are the only group spending substantially more in helping his business. So, Nancy, was the president wrong?
Yeah, great. Tiffany's is doing better.
70% is doing better.
Spending.
A lot of companies are doing better.
And the wealthy are 14%. Let's face it, when they get an extra buck, you know, they're not as likely to spend it as the average person who's going to buy a hot dog or a new car because their junker is just about dead. The middle-class Americans, that's where the vast majority of consumer spending is, and that's where we need to put
I couldn't agree with you more, Nancy, on that last point. I think you're absolutely right. We are a middle-class economy, but, Toby, the president said there would be no benefit at all for extending the Bush tax rate cuts, and, in fact, we've seen one.
Well, if I can put my imprimatur on this, I think the bigger issue is that for some reason the president, our dear president, has never quite understood that whether it's right or wrong, 20% of Americans, the top 20% of earners, account for about 90%, 90, of discretionary spending. And what we're talking about here is discretionary spending. Yep. This is not whether you're going to pay the rent or buy food.
I got to cut you off because I want SC to weigh in.
Is what put it over the line.
Well, I mean, you know, Nancy bemoans Tiffany, but what she doesn't realize is that Tiffany puts a lot of people to work, a lot of people who aren't directly benefiting, you know, by going in and getting a diamond engagement ring, people who just want a salary.
I'm in Detroit, where the Chevy Volt was just declared car of the year. That's an industry that puts people to work, not Tiffany's.
Nancy, you got the last word on that one. Coming up on deck, the Kennedy. It's time for Buy, Sell, or Hold. We take the names and stories in the news streams as if they're stocks. I get ahead of myself. Would you buy them, sell them, or hold them? Well, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has another fight in his hands. New York is one of the few states, 6 in total, that has banned ultimate fighting. But the Ultimate Fighting Championship is getting ready to spar with the New York governor and the state legislature to allow the controversial sport in the state. UFC says the sport would generate $23 million for the economy and create more than 200 jobs. So allowing UFC in New York, SC.
It's a buy. I don't know why they're not here now. Love it.
Nancy Skinner, buy, sell, or hold.
I hate to put my imprimatur on UFC, but I actually like it. And given the stuff Toby and I have had over the years, it's nothing. Buy.
Buy, Toby.
Total buy, man. And you know what? Nancy Skinner and SE, that would be UFC.
Oh, woo! I like that. All right, I say it's a buy, too. And Scoreboard says it's a buy. It's the Great Plate Auction. The state of Texas raising money by auctioning off license plates. 33 specialty plates. Rangers sold for $10,000. Cowboys for $11.50. And the big winner, Ferrari, that went for $15,000. Winners get to keep the plates for 25 years and are allowed to sell them for profit anytime. The Texas auction, I got to go to Toby first for this. It sounds like something for you, Toby.
First off, I love it. And B, yeah, every state's going to be doing this, David. Trust me.
Okay,
they need the money.
Absolutely a buy. What a creative way to raise some cash.
Nancy from Motown, what do you say?
All for it, if they could raise the money. But I want to see what Mission Accomplished would go for in Texas.
All right, and I say it's a buy as well as Scoreboard says. All right, let's talk about the president's anti-business plan. The president is still anti-business. Is that a buy, sell, or hold? SC, quick.
Sell? Don't be
What do you say, Toby?
No,
the president is anti-business. Is that a buy, sell, or hold?
That is a buy. Words speak louder than action.
And Nancy, quickly.
Come on, sell. He bailed out all of Wall Street and the autos.
At home, 97% of you voted buy, 2% sell, and 1% hold. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday.